All right, we're going to start the third part, mainly for clerks and then anybody else that wants to listen in, more outside of the election process. So first we're going to have Terry Harmla from Public Health, and she's going to talk to you guys about a new ordinance that has gone through the county board and has been approved and is already in process. It's done and ready to go. So come on in, Terry.
Hi guys. I am Terry Harmla. I am the Shawano Menominee County's Health Department Health Officer. And we are replacing the human junk hazard ordinance with a human health hazard ordinance. The human health hazard ordinance is pretty specific to the public health department, so that when somebody has a complaint about an occupied permanent dwelling, then we will follow up with that. We started a coalition about a year ago to because this is never easy, right? It's never a one done. There's a lot of process to work with people. So we work with our law enforcement, we work with planning and zoning, our corp council, building inspectors, and municipalities. So we've had even in this year, we have had about 28 complaints that we will follow up on. I like to say concerns that we follow up on. If it involves children, we get CPS involved, or APS, Adult Protective Services. So it really is a collaborative effort, and it's your municipalities, right? Each one of our smaller municipalities, in order to come together as well. So we may call you just to either let you know, or you've called us. People have called us and said, we're concerned about this, or I'm hearing about this. It does need to be from a primary person concern, not secondhand information. We understand an anonymity. Please let them know we never talk about who called us. That's not what we're interested in. What we're interested in is the safety of the person in that dwelling. We are covered by state statutes as well. However, our ordinance it brings it down more to our communities. So that's really the purpose of the ordinance. And just to kind of clarify some things. Do you have any questions?
Yes. What is the ordinance?
The ordinance is for a human health hazards ordinance.
How would that be defined?
Great question. And it is anything that would cause imminent danger to somebody, whether it is... it can be like cat feces or dog feces, just, there is hoarding is a part of that, but your mess and my mess are defined two different ways. So that's very subjective, but we do have a list that we literally go through the house and make sure that there's open entries, that there's working toilets and faucets, that kind of thing. Presence of animal waste, presence of human waste, a functioning refrigerator, plumbing, that kind of thing. So we do have a list that we bring out. I do make calls. We do make calls. There's two of us that work on these, and try to help the person. The last thing I want to do is placard a house. Do I have that authority? I do. But that's not what I want to do. I don't ever want to displace somebody. We want to work with you. Maybe they need ADRC for some resources or a new cap. It's really about connecting the dots. And like I said, right now we have 28 cases that we have worked on. They are either in process or they've been successfully closed. So
this only has to do with the dwelling, not the surrounding area of the dwelling.
Thank you. And we work with planning and zoning with kind of sorting some of that out. But if there is standing water with vector-borne, where there's a lot of mosquitoes and a lot of things that can cause human health hazards, those kinds of things. There's rats. We've gotten those calls. Burrowing outside of the house, and in this particular case, it was inside the house as well, kind of mitigating that and working with that. So when it was the other ordinance before this, it was kind of like planning and zoning did the outside, we did the inside. Well, this can kind of go a little bit both ways. It can get tricky, but we work together on them. Yeah. And then it goes back to the municipality, that sustainability We write a letter at the end. I work with Corp Counsel, make sure we've got all our verbiage in there. We like calling the presidents and the clerks to say, hey, this is what is going on in your community, because it's your community. And this is what we're doing. Do you have any other thoughts? Do you have any other, resources maybe that we don't know? Do you have an ordinance in place that we might not be aware of? Because I know a couple of them are looking at noise ordinances, and those can exist, and every municipality is a little bit different. We're here to support. That's the whole purpose of it. Anything else? You're welcome to call the health department anytime, and we'll answer whatever questions we can.
Terry, who would be the first point of contact for if a person wanted to lodge a complaint or a case?
Really, our general number, and we always have somebody answering phones, or you can leave a message and we will get back to you.
So it'd be public health and not necessarily planning and zoning anymore?
Correct. I guess. That's hard to know how many planning and zoning has gotten, so.
Do you have any contact cards or anything?
I can bring some down.
That's fine.
Some, yeah. Yeah, I can bring my cards down. The general number will always get you to a phone. But there's two of us that work on them. Nick Mao is the assistant health officer. I'm the health officer. So Nick is mitigating and doing the coalition and that kind of thing. If they get kind of tricky or, they start coming in quite a bit, then, I take them as well. So we work together with it. Anything else? Okay. All right. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for what you do as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
You bet.
So in part 3, I attended, it was a Zoom meeting, a year in the life of the clerk, and it goes through every month of what clerks do. And I know some of us some of you are seasoned clerks and some of them not so much, but it just kind of gives you an awareness of what all the responsibilities of a clerk is, not just elections. And then I'm going to talk about the machine firmware updates, absentee ballots, a mess. Homeland Security, I wanted to talk to you about a webinar or in-person assessments, referendum timelines, notices, and then some other general topics, Zoom meetings, just some of this stuff. We might have to go back to that screen. So a year in the life of the clerk. This was put out by UW-Madison, Melissa Kono, and I contacted her and she said, yes, absolutely, spread the word. So she starts off with, so now you're a clerk, now what? Because what has everybody heard? That's not that much. Yeah, do this meeting here or write some minutes and, some elections? Yeah, sure. So don't panic yet. Take a deep breath. Help is on the way. You can do this. So let's show you what a year in the life of a clerk looks like, and it's not even everything. So here are your clerk duties for state statute. Come around to this side. So basically, you are the keeper of the records. You have the corporate seal, custody of all of that. People are going to come to you for open records request. You can allow inspection of these records as permitted by Wisconsin's public records law. You attend all the meetings, whether, the common council, village board, town meetings is what most of us have. Keep a full record of those proceedings. Maintaining the minute book governing body proceedings, and then countersigning all ordinances, resolutions adopted and published or posted as required by law. Some more. Maintaining an ordinance book of all of your ordinances, because they're going to come to you. Terry's going to call you, the clerk, say, do you guys have an ordinance on file for junk and human hazard? And some ordinances, some municipalities have that pretty well documented, and some don't. When I came into town in Washington, it was all over the place. You have the responsibility for elections and voter registrations. You're the one that are going to take the the applications for licensing, bartender's license, liquor license, Treasurer does most of the dog stuff, as well as recording all bonds. Notifying persons that they've been elected after an election, to have them sign their oaths of office, and doing everything else after that election is done. You still have more responsibilities for that. And then drawing countersigning orders, or basically you will be preparing the bills for the for the town board or village, and the boards will approve those, and then you're basically paying the bills. Technically, it's the treasurer's position to take those checks that have been signed and mail them out. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes the clerk does that too. That's a check and balance that you're supposed to have within your municipality with that process. We just talked about the treasurer. Treasurer prepares all the tax, or gets all the tax bills ready to go out. The clerk has to report to the county and put into the software what your mill levies are going to be, the budget, amounts and all that type of stuff. The budget is supposed to be prepared by the board or a board committee, but it's not uncommon for your clerk to do it and show it to the board, and it's done. Stamping and endorsing street trade permits, I don't think we have that much around here. I think it's more for bigger municipalities. Board of Review, which is hand in hand with your assessments, with your assessor. Annexations, sometimes you will see an annexation if your municipality is around a village or a city, more so. Clerk is the one that conveys all the information to the state departments. So, there's nobody else on your board or elected officials within that municipality that's going to do that. It's left up to the clerk. And then the last one, with a broad brush, according to state statute. Perform all other duties required by law and by ordinance of direction of the village town board. So she puts a little bit of humor into her presentation. Typical clerk duties per sample job description. Again, everything but the kitchen sink, and the kitchen sink. Records custodian, maintains records regarding access. Elected officials are custodians unless an employee, if you have another employee designated to handle that, which could be an assistant or a deputy clerk. And again, the clerk is record keeper. Records and notice. In your booklet, in your folders, I put in the Wisconsin Towns Association. Get all this up here. The Wisconsin Towns Association put out a nice pamphlet on what needs to be published in the paper, what is class 1, 2, or 3 notice, and what can be posted. Either the posting process would be website, town hall, or post in 3 places. And the Wisconsin Election Commission has followed suit with this too for your election notices. So if you're getting a lot of emails from me saying, sure you want to put this in the paper because you can save money and post it on your website and at the town hall, or you can post these election notices in 3 places around your community. It saves you money. There are exceptions to that rule and rough ordinances. There's one type, a referendum type A and E notice, I believe, has to be published. So there are some exceptions. Your board of review has to be published in the paper. So monthly, you're preparing for the monthly meetings, you're posting agendas, preparing the minutes, reporting sales tax if applicable. Financially, you're paying the bills and preparing a monthly budget recap. Doing payroll if you have, I do mine quarterly, so monthly is not true. Quarterly 941s to the IRS. Unemployment wages need to be reported, and again, report sales tax if you're on a quarterly system. So January, nomination papers for spring election due on the first Tuesday in January, which is the 2nd for this go around. Prepare a February primary, which is the 3rd Tuesday in February, 20th. W-2s for employees. Annual withholding to the state. Retirement report, EFT, if you pay that out. And then quarterly payroll reports. There's a few more state documents that are filed that are not on here. February is primary. And then tax exemption reports are due in March in the even years. So we'll be doing that next year. You end up working with planning and zoning on that. They will send you what they have on record as exempted, and then you got to follow up with them and then send it into the state. March, annual meeting, third Tuesday. Notice the annual meeting, third Tuesday of April every year. It's the state statute, that's when it should be. Work on your financial C or CT report. You're working on your beverage licenses. You're doing your fire due self-certification. And then preparing for that spring election. April, spring election, annual meeting. DNR recycling. Hopefully you don't have to do that, one of your board members is. You will be working on your financial report still. And then some municipalities do open book or board review earlier in the year, May, April, so you're putting out those notices. And then quarterly payroll reports. May, CT report is due, open book, and board of review. The UW Government Education Center in Madison you can do your board of review certification through them, through video, instead of having now to go up to Carter or whatever to the casino. Expenditure restraints due 5/1 if qualified. And I'm not sure what that is, but if anybody's, that was on her thing. So I thought I'll just leave that in case it's a village thing. June statement assessment after your board review. Alcohol licenses are the fees due in June. They expire on June 30th. Again, the UW Government Training Center has now a video on how liquor license. Want to start your budget preparation. CMAR due to DNR for sewer utility. So if you have a sewer district in your municipality, you probably have to do that. July, fall primary. Take a look at that's fall primary in August every other year because we only have that every other year. Take a look at mid-year financials, assessing this budget spending. Some cities and villages will start budget preparation. County, I think we're just about done by end of July. Quarterly report, payroll report. The TID, if you have a TID district within your municipality, you will need to have that by July 1st. And then the tax exemption is actually due. August, fall primary. Start budget collection. September, budget. Dog list and reporting to the county. I know you clerks don't do dog listing, or probably stay away from your dogs as much as possible. There's a reason. It is we request from the municipalities. Right now, we have requested from the municipalities that if they have a dog lister, that they send their list of dogs into us. That dog lister will get paid 50 cents a dog. So basically, that is their invoice or bill that they went out into the community and took a look around and said, these are the dogs that we found. Not necessarily the ones that were licensed, but the ones that we found. And we have a hard time with our treasurers to get this information back. Once we get it back, we turn around and compile all the information, and we have to pay it into the state. And we have a deadline for that. And sometimes we meet it, sometimes we don't. It's all dependent on we hound the municipalities, the treasurers, to get this information in. We'd rather not. We send out numerous emails. It's posted in the paper, and it's just a hard project to work on. So, and then continue the budget. October is budget again and presented to the governing body. Post-published budget hearing notices. Prepare for the fall election, recycling grant due, and again, quarterly payroll. Budget hearing in November, fall election, report election training to WEC in the odd years, which is this year. And then budget hearing, our property lister puts out a timeline that the municipalities need to follow with reporting into them. So you can't have your November budget hearing at the end of the month. You're going to have it before the 15th, I believe, in order to get everything in. December, pays or reports. I hope no clerks are doing that. And it should be like your chairman or one of your board members are doing that, or you are contracting with the county highway department to do that pays or report. Payment rating report is what a payser is. And you basically go, if the clerk is doing it, you have a list of all of your roads in your town roads. And you have a history on those roads. When was the last time it was paved? What was it, how was it paved? Was it a total reconstruct? Was it just paved over the top of it? And you're going to keep track of these roads and the conditions of your roads, because the higher up they make it onto this Paisley report, those are the ones that you should be looking at replacing in the future years. And you have to have a plan in order to get grant funding from Highway Department and other things. So it's a little bit of a process going through, and you got to keep it up. File a statement of taxes. That's another thing that is produced out of the budget. It's municipal levy worksheet. You actually have to do that back, and I've done mine already. You got to have that done first before you can start your budget process. It's just, I think it's like December 15th that has to go in, something like that. Election workers, mail tax bills, treasurer, and TID worksheet is now due for those tax increment districts in the municipalities. So here's just some different training opportunities that are in the clerk folders, and Wisconsin Towns Association, League of Municipalities, just the different conferences that are going on, and the municipal clerk through Wisconsin elections that every new clerk has to do. Questions? Yeah.
Just one in December.
Pardon?
Give your 2-week notice.
Oh, you have a question?
I have a couple of questions. So you mentioned this dog list. So why is it important or necessary that a township keep track of what dogs are in the neighborhood?
Per state statute. And the subject.
But what's the reasoning behind it?
Per state statute. Any other clerks have anything to add to that?
Ask your representative
Yes.
and your senator and your...
The and even dog licensing within your municipality, that whole dog package is per state statute. There is a state statute out there for it. And it's good in a way. I like the idea that you have to have your dog licensed. And we really pushed the treasurers to make sure that they have contacted last year's owners, and if they haven't licensed their dog, and find out why you haven't. Maybe they don't have it anymore, passed away, or whatever, valid reasons. But I think the part of the statute is there to protect the owner and another person if they were to get bit. So in order to get a dog license, you have to have your dog vaccinated. And so if that dog were to get loose and run to the neighbors and bite the neighbor, the first thing that is going to be asked is your dog vaccinated? And is licensed? And per state statute, if that dog is not licensed, therefore probably not vaccinated, you run into your rabies issues, where the dog might have to be put down. And this is because you didn't follow the proper procedure. The other thing that happens is that if the sheriff department can issue a citation, and your fine is going to be heavier as a dog owner if you didn't pay that $3 for your license, or $5, because it says, if it's an unlicensed dog, then it's a $500 fine. So it's protecting both the owner and the people living around the dogs that for that type of reason. And if the dog is licensed and has his rabies shots and he bites somebody, they don't have to go down that road where you might have to euthanize that dog or put him in quarantine for 7 or 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever. So and then they have all this other stuff in there too with the dog lister. And it's hard nowadays with the dog lister, because prior to 10, 15 years ago, I remember our dog catcher was also the dog lister. And I remember him coming to my door, knocking on the door. Hey, I'm dog lister for town of Washington. Do you have any dogs? Well, we didn't. But he was going door to door. And I don't know, I'd be a little leery of going door to door nowadays asking somebody, do you have a dog?
Right.
So they just report if they don't have a dog lister because they don't have anybody that they wants to go or they don't feel it's safe for them to go, they just let us know, we don't have a dog lister. We can't find one, we can't get one, we don't have one. So we put that on record as no dog lister. But what we're trying to get away from is the treasurer taking her list of licenses and sending them into our office and saying, I did this as a dog lister and now we're gonna pay you for that, because you really technically didn't fulfill the job of what the state statute has said.
Okay.
So,
Can I ask you another question?
sure.
It's always the guy in the front row asking questions, isn't it? So this Paisley report you talked about
Mhm.
for the roads, so is that a public document?
Not sure. It would be public, you could ask your chairman, to see it, because it's,
Well, I mean,
On
I
file
attend
at
the town meetings and roads are talked about all the time. I've never even heard this term.
I'm sure it would be a public.
I'm sure it would be.
Yeah.
For LRIP funding, it's the local road improvement program. I believe you have to have a Paisley report to send in with that, or have one on file somewhere. I don't have to do them, but I think it might get submitted, maybe to the county or somewhere.
And that's an annual report?
It's an annual report. Yep, because you're checking your roads every year.
So it should be discussed at the annual town meeting, correct? Would
It could be,
a normal
yes.
agenda item?
I was gonna say, we don't usually, it's just a
what?
report that the chairman and the
Yeah.
supervisors fill out generally together,
Mhm.
and then they submit it, I forgot, to the county, I think to the
Somebody.
county, to the highway, and then I think we just get some paperwork back and I generally just file it.
Mhm.
So if anybody would wanna see it, but it's just, there's really
Road
not
ratings.
anything informational.
I think the highway aids that we get, that part of requirements is to have a Paisley rating. Well, a Paisley rating is kind of the report that the chairman has to do every year. It's kind of all together, and that basically highway aid is somewhat tied to that too.
So Kathy is saying that the highway aid that we could receive from the highway department is based off a Paisley report,
Okay,
Part of it.
part of it.
okay.
That's like our C&CT reports that we send in is what generates our general transportation aid, or the GTA, and that's basically what that does, so.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay. Machine firmware updates for our voting machines. We have all the machines, all but one over across the hall here, locked up. So it's been talked about that there's going to be an software upgrade for the machines. And I was under the impression it was going to be for the touch screen, so that the write-ins will print at the bottom of the results tape. Because some of the municipalities, Washington is one of them, we bought one of those touchscreens. We used it once and found out what a pain it was, and we never used it again for 2 years. We never used this machine that we purchased. I have seen the software, the updated software tallies, and they look nice. You can read the write-ins, and the ballot sections are been bolded in a different font that's bigger. And right now, I think today the 11th, there was there's going to be a WEC meeting to approve, or to put that in front of them, these the firmware software updates. What I did find out at a conference is they said, well, we'll need all of your machines. I said, why do you need them all? It's a software update for the ICX. And they said, no, we're doing firmware updates too to the ICE. So both machines will have firmware updates, and the ICX will have a software update. If they get this approved within the next couple weeks, we are going to do that, but it'll be all the machines in Shawano County. We're not going to do, we've got to keep them all the same. Just in case something happens, then we're a united front, and it's going to be the whole county either going up or going down. Hope it's up. And but if they don't get it through, we will not be doing anything to those machines until 2025, because we are not going to do an update in the middle of an election cycle, 2024. We do not want that, just because and it could happen now, it could happen then. If something happens and it's like, oh, all these Dominion machines had an upgrade mid-year, and that is why this happened in November. It could be, it could go either way. You didn't do the upgrade and that's why it's happened. So that's what I'm going with. If they don't approve it within the next couple of weeks, we probably will not have an upgrade until 2025. We're gonna leave them like they are and hope, pray that we can get through the 4 elections with it
And now, like
working.
you said, that is something you would not have to pay for?
It's not, you do not have to pay for it.
Okay.
So, okay. Absentee ballot update. Oh my gosh, what a nightmare. So I do have some prototypes or samples here of the regular one and the SVD. I didn't get a military one. They look nice, got all this beautiful colorant on them, so it's gonna cost us more to get them printed. Here is the outside mailer. This is what this looks like. Nice and pretty too. Post office was integrally involved in the design of these envelopes.
So all of our absentee envelopes are obsolete.
Throw all of your old white envelopes away. Yes, if a ballot comes through in an old envelope in any election, it's probably going to get rejected. So the first problem so these were approved. The first problem that came up was about a month ago. Bear Graphics out of Iowa printed envelopes, and they chose not to follow the template that the state had put out. So down here on the bottom where it says number, street name, and city, they added state and zip. The election commission met and they said, no, you cannot have that on there. We will not allow that. So and Bear Graphics started off by saying, too bad, so sad, to all these envelopes that they printed out there. But by the time this whole thing went through WAC, Bear was reprinting all of those envelopes. Tens of thousands already, I mean. So they said you cannot strike through, you cannot cross out, you cannot label over that. Gotta toss them. So that was on Bear Graphics. That was their fault. They chose a template, they changed the template without, thinking it would be fine, and it wasn't. This last week, here I got one right here. Actually, not last week, it was yesterday. I got an email where we're a state clerk email group, and the Sheboygan clerk sent out an email and he said, hey, if you haven't printed your ballot envelopes yet, don't. He went on to say that this little return postmark, the postage indica, cannot have a dash in it or a hyphen. It will not go through the postal system like that. Well, guess what? All of their templates for military and this particular one have a hyphen in them. WEC never put out anything. It was because I don't even know how they found it out. Somebody knew the postal indicas and said you can't have a hyphen in there. Some clerk somewhere, and so they checked into it. WEC said yes, you are right. That's not going to work, but they never alerted any of the clerks in the state to stop printing ballot envelopes. So I went out and I looked on the site and I see their template does have it removed now, but it's just ridiculous. So this guy, it was actually Vernon County, he had 10,000 envelopes printed again through Bear, but I don't know how many military ones he had to throw away. And that's on him this time. It's not on Bear. Bear didn't change anything. They used the template that had the hyphen in it. So that's what we're dealing with these envelopes that we're just supposed to sail right through. So today there was a Zoom meeting or a Zoom webinar from 10 to 11. Erica watched it, so I'm going to talk to her and see what it came up with. But I'm going to hold off a little bit longer on ordering. I'm ordering for the county except for the city, and I've been in touch with Leslie, and I said, do anything, Leslie, until they get it straightened out, because she as a city clerk isn't hearing any of this. So if you want to look at these later, you can. That's no problem. But yeah, and that's just absentee envelopes. Just wait. There's more coming down. Security in your polling place. So when I was at conference over in the Dells a couple months ago now, there was a discussion with a gentleman from Homeland Security. He is based out of Wausau, and he will come into David Melby, and I'm going to have him come to my office to look at it basically and give me pointers on what is good and what is bad with the security of my office. And I know first thing he's going to say, you've got direct access into your office where you have, you know, your election supplies and all this. So they're looking at a point for election security. How does your office work with that? He said he would, if there's any municipality that would like him to come, it's free of charge. That's the bonus, free of charge. That he would come to the municipality and walk through where your polling place would be, and also give you a checklist or a sheet on what is good and what is bad in your municipality. If that, after this is done, after tonight, I'll be sending out an email and seeing what municipalities are actually interested in maybe him coming, you know, because we'll do it in he said 1 or 2 days. He'd come and he'd go all the way around the county and look at everybody who wants to have that done. Another option is that he will do a Zoom webinar. You know, we can Zoom in with him and he'll go through some, you know, pointers of what, you know, was good and bad in your polling place. So that is another option if he can't make it out, or if he, you know, does, just if that's the other option. Somebody had asked if they could just get a, you know, a laundry list of good points, bad points, so they could, you know, go through their polling places at, themselves. And he said the Zoom is better, but he probably could put something together. So there's like 3 options. You can have him come in person, do a Zoom meeting, you know, it would be a group county Zoom meeting, and or just a list of do's and don'ts in your polling place. But I thought that I hadn't heard about that, but even if, so he's coming to my office for security reasons, and he does look at the, you know, the 3 doors that are wide open, you know, and that type of thing too, but it's not necessarily a courthouse security thing, it's just that office. And even if we can't change anything, you may have heard that the county is talking about doing a new government center. At least I would have those points of, you know, security to pass on to the building committee to say, you know, when you're designing this area, this may be, you know, put the mailroom on the other side of the door, you know, so that everybody doesn't come in here all the time. So that was the other reason why I wanted to do that for now, and maybe for the future planning of a new building. So referendum timelines. I sent out that email regarding the tax, going above your tax levy referendum, and working with the Burnham Wood and Elin, I think Tigerton, Wittenberg, maybe a lot of them on the western side. You can go out for referendum for EMS services that you can put that up above your tax levy. If you're planning on doing that, you need to contact the gal in the email that I sent out at the DOR, because she told me that Burnham Wood was the first one that did this 2 years ago, that the DOR has final say whether or not that referendum that your voters just passed to say, yes, we'll pay X amount of dollars over our tax levy limit, the DOR can say no, because you did it wrong. You put the wrong verbiage in your referendum notice. So I talked to her extensively, and she is more than willing to help, you know, get that referendum written up prior to your board meetings. And she's willing to help you all the way through, because usually she's at the end and she's got this referendum that's all messed up, and then she's got to try to figure out how they can fix it and still put those dollars on their tax levy, on their tax bills for those for the landowners. So I found that out, so hopefully going forward. But otherwise, it's 70 days. I need to have your referendum 70 days prior to the April election. I also found out that I thought a municipality could call a special referendum for whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. You can't. The only way we can call for a special referendum vote, you know, just that one thing, is if the school district is going to have a referendum vote outside of an election cycle. I'm like, really? we have to do it with the school district? And she said, it's the same DOR lady, and she said yes. And I just thought that was just odd. So, just a little FYI, if you ever want to call for a special referendum on a, I don't know if it's just to do with the tax levy or something, then you can't. Because I had one municipality that wanted to do it this fall yet. They were going to call a special referendum and run it through so that they could get it on this year's tax bills. Otherwise, you got to wait a year, because if you do it next April, it won't go on until next November. So that's what they're trying to
You're talking a
get.
special election day itself for?
Yes,
referendum?
yes, special election day for a referendum. Yeah. And if you ever hear anything different, please let me know, because that's what I'm going with, because that's what the DOR lady told me. And then here's the notices that need to go with that referendum. And then there's a guide for a referendum, but it didn't really talk about that tax levy one specifically. It talks about like these guidelines on the time and stuff like that. I think I mentioned the legal notice, the WTA legal notice thing that was in the clerk's books. I find this very handy. Most of us our stuff now we can post on a website and at the town hall. You can go away with the publishing and pay for those publishing costs. Board of Review, like I said, is one that will be there until state statute changes that one. That one is specific. It's a Board of Review specific state statute. That's why it never gets changed. And, you know, instead of doing that great big long one, you know, do a shortened one. Other things that need to be published: alcohol license, your bar license, liquor license. They need to go in the paper probably one time, because Shawnee Leader now is only a weekly. And then if you have caucus date, if you have, your municipality does caucus, that needs to be published in the paper. Village board minutes are supposed to be still published in the paper. I asked Cecil, I said, are you publishing your stuff in the paper? She goes, no. I'm like, okay. Ordinances with forfeitures for a town. If you're a township, you pass an ordinance that has a dollar amount tied to it, that has to be published in the paper afterward to let the electors know. And of course, type A notice of referendum also still has to be published in the paper. But this is like 6 pages long, back to back, maybe 4 pages. And so a lot of the stuff, a lot of the election stuff, short of referendums, you can post and you don't even have to put it in the, publish in the paper anymore. Here are the 4 manuals, 3 manuals and Badger books. I just put this on here in case you don't have the latest and greatest. Conference again, clerks complain that the manual does not meet state statute. We're working on it. Well, we don't want to change it up yet because, you know, we want to do all that little stuff. We're like, but it's your election manual. You're not sending us out any updates or addendums or anything. You're just saying, yeah, when we get around to it, we're going to update it. So that was one of our beefs with the WAC, was that you have these manuals out here and they're not meeting state statute. And that's where they are also getting, you know, their feathers ruffled too, because, you know, somebody's looking at, and honest to God, the last day I was there in the morning, we had a clerk who was jumping up and down for joy because a group took them to court stating that you didn't follow, which way did it go? You didn't follow the WEC manual. And she said, but we followed state statute. And so their case got thrown out because they followed state statute, and the group was saying that, you know, you didn't follow the WEC manual for elections. So it's out there. I mean, and it does, the dates are on here for when they updated it last, or parts of it. So that's about all I had. I was going to, a couple things that, you know, we can talk about. When we were out in Wittenberg, we had a village that is still working on her, for them, the C report, that CCT report. She, by the direction of the Department of Revenue, who told her, submit what you got, because if you don't, you're not going to get any general transportation aid. And it was last month I was out there, and she still could not find that flipping $100,000 or $10,000 that was making her report not come out. And she said, I've looked, I can't. She was just, you know, newer clerk, maybe 2 or 3 years in and could not figure it out. And for you non-clerks, a CT report is like your annual business or financial report to the state. And it is a bear. And basically, all the information that you're putting into this report, the state actually already has, but you're pulling it all together to put it in this one report, and they will look at it, and based off of your income and expenses and whatever else is on there, that is the amount of money that they will grant your township for your general transportation aid, or GTA. And that's what they use it for. So every day you go past May 1st, you get docked a percentage off your GTA. So they told her to get it in. So, but what happened was, with having this roundtable discussion, she, I think Village Vanawa treasurer, or the deputy treasurer, was gonna go help maybe Elin, but they're gonna get together and she's gonna try to help her figure out where she's making her mistake at. So, so that's the CCT report. Budgets. Like I said before, I think most clerks are doing their budgets, and maybe a little bit of guidance from the board when they present it to them and say, would you please look at this? If you have any questions on fence line disputes or vacating a property, you can call me, or you can call, I think, Belle Plain, maybe Chris Vlamastic. She's done property vacations. Fence line dispute is just, it's not fun. But that weird stuff is out there, and so, let me know. I can always send out a clerk email to find out if anybody else has done it. If you're not a member of the Wisconsin Towns Association, they have oodles of information on fence line disputes. I mean, too much almost. The other thing that I was thinking about doing was doing like a monthly Zoom or a bi-monthly Zoom meeting. We do that for District 8 clerks. And it's just whatever is on the table at the time, if it's elections or, the CT reports or that type of thing. I would do it from county clerk into municipalities and just get us all together. And if you want, roundtable, talk about anything that you want. I'd set it a certain one day, same time every month. If you can make it, you can't, great. Probably be around lunchtime. And if not, that's okay too. Maybe you can make it the next month. But that would be something I'll probably start before the end of the year, I think, before we get into the election cycle. So, is there anything else that anybody else would like to talk about?
No, just thank you, because I just feel you're very, very great at informing us.
Well, thank you.
And, giving us places to, if we do have questions, where to find it, or your office is very helpful.
Well, thank you.
Anytime that I call.
And as you can see, Philip is videotaping us. So what's going to happen is these 3 sections will go out on the Shawano County website, so that you can follow up or review, or if you want to pick it apart, let me know, or it might be wrong, let me know, because I want to know if you disagree with something, or you don't think, maybe it's not quite right. I don't want to be giving misinformation out to everybody else, so let me know. But I thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. If you want to look at these absentee ballots, you can, or envelopes. They're up here.
We're gonna change